Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Shopify is there to help you grow. Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, and sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. What I love about Shopify is how no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., and Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
We all know about the speed of sound, but have you ever thought about the sounds of speeding? If you drive over the speed limit, there are lots of different sounds you might hear. Drive too fast and you can hear the sound of your vehicle crashing, the sound of ambulances and first responders desperately trying to free you from the wreckage. You can hear the beeps of a heart monitor. You can hear doctors and nurses in an emergency room as you're being treated for your injuries. You can hear the sound of your worried family members in the hospital waiting room, hoping to hear that you're okay. You could even hear the sound of people crying at a funeral. Because if you drive over the speed limit, whether by a lot or by a little, you could do damage that's beyond repair. You could seriously injure yourself, or worse, you could hurt and even kill someone else. When you speed, you put everyone on the road in danger. One way or another, speeding catches up with you. Paid for by NHTSA.
Welcome into the JMU Sports News Podcast. We're joined now by Good Game Bro, Doug Vini. Doug, how are you doing on this Friday?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy. It's been a long week. I'm sure we'll get into that in a second, but it's great to be here and happy that it's Friday for sure.
Yeah, Doug, you've kind of had an experience not a lot of regular video game players have had. Well, first, I guess we should start. Good Game Bro, you're a big-time streamer. I think I got hip to you a few years back. I think even pre-COVID, around when I think it was the Fortnite boom. I think you were in Fortnite a little bit, maybe some 2K action, and now it's taken you to a place of being able to play college football before us regular video gamers are able to even touch the disc.
Yeah, it's been a wild time. I spent a lot of time in sports games, shooters, and the Fortnite era was, I think, incredible, right? Like everybody knows Fortnite. Everybody loves Fortnite, even though I don't like the current new season. But yeah, it's been wild. It's been a wild ride.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Sorry, go ahead, Jack.
No, you got it, Bennett.
I was just saying we're excited for the new NCAA football game. I think everybody is. You've had a chance to play it. You've shown gameplay. A lot of people are familiar with your videos. I guess we should start with what's the process like where you get early access to gameplay, and sort of how did that all come about for you to get into streaming, but then also to get to a point where EA is reaching out to you and wants you to have access to the product early?
Yeah, for sure. I've been doing this for a really long time. I started making videos probably back in like 2014. I've been making content since I was in high school. My senior project in high school, I graduated 2006. I'm super old, but like in 06, we had a senior project. My grandmother's like, make a website. I'm like, cool. I made one about video games, and then it, took off and blew up, and I had a lot of opportunities from that. And I kind of turned that in 2014 into Good Game Bro, and maybe narrowing things down a bit. So going from like a wide gambit of covering all games to just covering sports and shooters, which are really, two things that are really near and dear to me. That turned into a YouTube channel. That turned into making fun videos that were tutorials and other things. And then you get these conversations. Like the first game I ever covered was Dead Space. If you ever played Dead Space, super scary game. I had to play with the lights on because I don't like scary stuff. And so that was like a difficult thing. But that was the first thing I ever got invited to. They flew me to San Fran. I got played in a room of like all these established journalists, and I'm like 18, 19, whatever years old. And there's an opening sequence. I scream. Everyone's looking around like, why is this slightly old child like screaming in the room? And yeah, it's just, I sort of parlay those opportunities. So it's, you make great content, or you think you make great content, and you try to get great relationships, and you try to just, do the best you can. And some of it's luck, some of it's, hard work, but it's a great mixture.
That's awesome. And EA took you down early on in this whole process, because now it feels like every day you're logging onto Twitter and you're seeing a new gameplay version of College Football 25. But you were one of the first, along with I think Matt Brown, another friend of the podcast, was down there. The Extra Point newsletter. You guys went down there, was able to kind of get your hands on it. What was that experience like, going down there with EA and being one of the first people ever to see this brand new, highly anticipated college football game?
It was incredible. College football, or I guess the NCAA series from way back, has always been super important to me. I was going back as early as like NCAA '09 was like the first one I ever went down to Orlando to, see and get feedback on and play test and, all of that. And, when the series went away, I was sad. I'm like, I look forward to this every summer. I have a group of friends that I play online dynasties with. I want to steal their recruits. I want to talk trash. I want all that stuff, right? It's what you live for with that game. And, when I got the email about like, hey, we would like for you to come down, it's a surreal feeling. I told my wife, like, I got to make sure this can work. And when you get to the studio, it was my first time at their new studio. I'd been in their old one that they had for a number of years, but you go to this new studio, it's incredible. Everything's fresh. You walk into the room and it's a different experience. It felt like a locker room of like a college, facility. There are nameplates, there's, helmets, there's the backdrops. They even had the JMU one, which, because I'm from Harrisonburg, so it was cool to see, that pop up. And it just felt like something different. Like, it felt like we're at a point of time where they understand this is a big moment. This isn't just another release. It's sort of like a society's coming back to be like, this is a thing that we've all enjoyed. We've all desperately missed over 11 years, and to have it finally back was incredible for everyone to see.
I can't believe it's been 11 years already. Feels like more recently that it went away. It's been a huge bummer without it. I was curious your reaction when you saw the JMU touch being from Harrisonburg, if that surprised you at all, if you knew that was coming, and sort of what it was like to see that when you walked in there.
Yeah, I definitely felt like I was a 18, 19-year-old kid walking around, like, the campuses. I went to EMU. I went to the smaller school. JMU is where I wanted to go, but I wanted to play basketball, so I wasn't good enough to play at JMU. But it was so cool because JMU is, it's the city I was born in. I grew up in Luray, and if you wanted to go to the mall, you had to drive 45 minutes over to Harrisonburg. And so, like, I've watched
And a
Harrisonburg.
great mall that is, man.
It used to be back in the day. But it's just cool. Like, I've seen Harrisonburg grow up so much over the course of my life, and it's a special place. It's where I met my wife. My wife and I met there. It's a super important place. So when I saw that little sign, I'm like, they are putting so much attention to detail. Seeing the stadium in game, it's just, you see the dormitories sort of like in the background. You can see the different buildings across JMU's campus in different camera angles. It's just a very cool feeling to see a school that's not massive to a lot of people, but is super important to that area, have that much detail in the game.
Well, I got to ask, you brought up the stadium. I don't know if you're able to talk about it fully, but do they have the full grandstand side and then the high school bleacher side? Was that visible in the game?
To my recollection, yes. So you have like the shorter side and then the more updated side that they've done. The one thing that's not there that I was pretty sad about is they don't have the streamers when touchdowns happen. So I'm hoping we see that in future iterations, but that was like the first thing I did. I threw a touchdown and I was like, but I didn't see any streamers, so I was kind of sad.
That's a bummer.
Yeah,
That's hilarious, though. I saw your video of the gameplay, and I imagine a lot of JMU fans are going to get the game, and they're going to take JMU up against like Michigan or Alabama or Ohio State. You had, I think it was Jacksonville State playing Florida State. Can you tell me what it's like to play on the road with like a G5 team, and sort of how they've made it more challenging than, I guess, previous iterations of the game?
It's so painful. And it should be, right? Like, in fairness, like, you don't want to take a small school and play a Michigan at Michigan or a Penn State at Penn State and think you're going to just walk them over or whatever. You need a sort of challenge. And I think that's why I've always loved the series, is they've really brought that feeling back of, you're going into a big stadium. You're seeing the pageantry. You're seeing the traditions. You might go into Penn State and see a whiteout, and you're like, I'm fearing for my life right now. This is scary. But the stadium pulse meter they have in the top right-hand corner, from, the crowd shaking to trying to call an audible, and sometimes the players don't hear it, which is like a thing that we've seen before. Sometimes they act like they hear it, but it's a different play art. Like, once you actually, like, you might want to say, oh, I'm trying to run here, they're sacking the box, I'm going to call a pass because that'll be a little bit more successful. And you might do that, you might think you have the right play call, but the game will actually do an incorrect play call because they're so shook. Their composure is completely gone. And so what you might think was supposed to be a nice little quick pass is now going to be something that's everybody's running verticals and you have no protection, or it's a halfback screen and you weren't expecting that and you're getting blitzed and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing here. It's like, it's genuinely incredible. But when you pull off a victory, I think about App State when they beat Michigan all those years ago. When you pull off a victory like that, it is so rewarding. It is, you see the fans in the stands with the surrender cobra, like, the whole celebration thing. It's just a really unique feeling that brings back so many memories.
Man, that's tough for one, because I was hoping to get the game and, run through all of these big time schools. I guess I'll have to take my time, get the right recruits and build into that. But man, that I remember, I think it was NCAA 14 when you would try to see your play call and all of the lines would be squiggly. And I thought that was tough. And now the fact that they've made it even tougher, that's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
be something. That's going to be something.
Yeah, it's very cool. I think I think eventually people will sort of like adjust to it, but the first couple of games you play where you're dealing with that, you will like I think back to NCAA 14. A lot of times if I had an FCS school on my schedule, I was like, I'll put something harder on there. Like I'm playing on Heisman difficulty. Give me a top 25 team. Let me make a name for myself. No, I'm keeping the FCS schools now. Like I desperately need them on my schedule.
You need the cupcakes. You need the cupcakes every now and then.
Amen. Amen.
But with all of that, I got to know, are you an online dynasty type of player or a road to glory guy?
Kind of both, man. I love storytelling. Dynasty is great because you're building a legacy for your coach, you're building a legacy for your player. You're trying not to shed a tear when a player is transferring. Having a player transfer on you is so frustrating, but it makes sense because the game does a very good job of showcasing you week over week. All right, you're lacking in playing style, right? So playing style, let's say you have a quarterback that's a pocket passing quarterback for their style, and you are not doing a good job of passing the football. You're averaging like 200 yards passing per game, but that guy is looking more so for 250 to fit his playing style because he's trying to air it out. He wants to get to the NFL. By throwing 200 instead of 250 per game, that guy all of a sudden is going to be like, I'm leaning towards transferring. And you start seeing his meter week over week as a transfer risk. And then at the end of the season, you have a chance to maybe persuade them, but it's like he could have a low interest in coming back. He might test the portal, and now you're going to lose a guy that was your starting quarterback, could have been a sophomore, and they're out of there. Or then maybe playing time is what they care about, and they might go to the transfer portal because they didn't get to play it all. Redshirting is in the game where you can play up to 5 games. A player can play up to 5 games and still maintain a red shirt, which is cool because you need to help get that a little extra playing time. But managing the stuff of, is this guy going to transfer? Oh no, this guy's actually high risk. It is chaotic. And when they leave, you are just like, you're in the portal. Like, please, I need a quarterback. Is anyone in here?
That's incredible. Yeah, I know with Dynasty, I feel like I would spend almost as much time like in the recruiting aspect as I would like playing games, trying to get all these like 5 stars and 4 stars. I also read it was maybe a little bit more challenging than the previous iterations to get a 4 or 5 star to a school like JMU. What is that like when you're actually recruiting high school kids or even portal guys?
Yeah, it's definitely more difficult. The biggest change I'll tell you for recruiting now is that instead of being taking a step back on recruiting, in NCAA football 14 and the previous ones, a state was a pipeline. So you take the state of Florida, they would be like, all right, the whole state of Florida is a pipeline. And in real life, that's not really realistic because North Florida is different from South Florida, from Central Florida. Like there are different styles of football play that go across there, different styles of players that come out of there. If you're getting kids from Miami, those kids are crazy fast, right? If you're getting kids from North Florida, you might have a little bit more strong, like actual kids. Kids in Central Florida, a little bit more balanced. Or if you go to East Texas, those are like big, strong, physical wide receivers. Like every region is basically going to be different. And that's kind of how they've done it in the game. So if you're JMU and you're trying to just say, like, I'm going to go get a pipeline of Florida, well, you also have to compete now for if you want to go to South Florida and just steal all the fast kids, you can't because Miami's like, no, these are our kids. And we have a 5-tier pipeline there. You might have a 1-tier pipeline. So a 5-tier is going to gain way more interest from a recruit than your 1-tier, or you might have no tier. You could have literally an empty tier. And now you're like, you're doing an uphill battle. And so that's why in this version of the game, recruiting to your region and where you have established pipelines is unbelievably important because you'll be much more successful there than trying to go to like, oh, there's a 5-star in California I want to go get. If you don't have a pipeline or general interest from him, good luck at that point.
Man. So when they've talked to you and you've gone through all of this, how like it sounds like they've listened to the last 11 years of fans clamoring for every little thing. I think the Surrender Cobra that went out today, people were just going crazy just about that. Of course, they did listen, but like how much of this, I don't know where I'm going with it. It's just insane how much they've listened. Like, is there anything else that could be potentially coming, or do you expect them to really just add things as updates come out and things of that sort? Like, are they going to listen to if there's an issue with, you know, Dynasty? Are they going to fix something quickly? Is that how they've set this up?
Yeah, I mean, I think I try to give people realistic expectations for a lot of this because what we are sort of given at this point is like a very passionate dev team. And I think a lot of people will give development teams, a bad rap and say, oh, this development team doesn't care or they're lazy or whatever. I've been in studios since I was 18, 19 years old. I've never met a lazy dev team. There may be some developers that are less passionate than others, but just like any of our jobs, there are people that are overachievers, people that meet the expectations, people that kind of hover a little below the line. That's like you're always going to see that. This development team is, I kind of call them the Avengers, if you happen to care at all about Marvel, because you got guys like Rob Jones and Scott O'Gallagher who came from 2K and NBA 2K. Their gameplay team is crazy. Like it's the most authentic, you're going to find on the entire market. You've got a guy like Christian Brandt who worked on the Tiger Woods PGA series, who worked on NBA Live Mobile, which was like super successful for EA as well. And they brought him in, and he's the presentation guy. When I dropped that presentation footage, I did a 30-minute interview with him to pick his brain of like, what have you put into the game that you're like, this is a banger, you've got to see this. This is really cool. Make sure you check out this. And he was just dropping nugget after nugget after nugget. There's Ben Hallmiller, who was back there in the old NCAA football 14 days on Dynasty. Like he's back. They brought in guys from College Football Revamped, which was, extending the life of NCAA football 14. They really have assembled this group, and there's so many others I'm forgetting about, but there's so many they've brought in that you're like, I trust their direction, I trust their vision, I trust their opinion and where they want this franchise to go. And then you also double that down with like, EA knows this title can't be a failure. Like this is a cultural icon at this stage. It has to hit. It's the same way that NBA 2K isn't a video game anymore. It's a cultural piece. Fortnite is a cultural piece. College football is going to be the same exact thing. And I think you're going to see good updates throughout the year. They've told me that if there's a stripe out at a game, for example, like they've got technology to bring that into the game fairly quickly, as there's always going to be game breaking stuff. They're going to try to, obviously tune that and fix that as much as they can. But the base of what we have and the technology they've built already to help make things more adaptable in the future, it just gives me really good feelings about the future of that franchise.
And Bennett, to quickly cut in before you ask
go ahead.
another question, I know people have worried that it's just going to be a Madden reskin. It sounds like it's not at all, and it's going to be a completely different game from Madden. Is that how much validity is that?
Yeah, the hard part about that is I think sometimes people would be like, oh, you'll see the comments on every video, this is going to be a Madden reskin. And I tell people, well, like, this is football at the end of the day. Dudes aren't out here with jetpacks and laser beams and, alternate game modes, right? Like, this is football. So to a degree, it needs to feel like football, but it also needs to feel the nuances of college football in comparison to what the NFL has. So the NFL, a tighter game, a more structured game. You're not seeing as much variance in some of the things. In college football, the variance is crazy. What a low one-star school is going to have as their top player versus a blue blood like a Georgia or something of that nature, it is vastly different. The skill set, the moves, how they hit, how they do, the awareness of the players, it is night and day a lot of times. And so I think that's what they do really well. They capture the pageantry well. The gameplay is a little bit more loose, and I don't mean that in a bad way in college football. It's wild. It's a little, weird. You might go right and all of a sudden realize, oh, I can actually bounce this all the way back to the left and get to the edge. Speed really kills. The throwing passing mechanic is unbelievable. It's my favorite thing. And I hope Madden adopts that because I think it's better than what Madden has. The defensive switch stick is incredible. That's also in Madden. The kicking meter in college football is I've never cared about kicking. Kicking is like let me take a sip of my water while I'm like, kicking an extra point. No, I'm literally full gamer stance, leaning forward, like timing, like squinting my eyes. Like they've done so much from a nuanced perspective to make that gameplay feel great. And it is different than Madden, but again, it's football. So there are going to be similarities across the board.
That's awesome. I was interested too, I guess, going back to the G5, P5 differences. When you're playing it, do you notice? I know sometimes in NCAA 14, you could go on Heisman vote and you could take Ball State into Alabama, and your offensive line would still sort of hang in there. Is it different now? Like, can you feel that your offensive line is just getting obliterated by a better defensive front or things like that?
I'm having PTSD, so thanks for doing that, Bennett. But I tried to play. I don't remember. Oh man, it wasn't like a terribly small school. I think it was Mid
Yeah.
Tennessee State. I tried to take in against Tennessee because I was like, oh, let me do an in-state sort of like rivalry here. I don't remember the kid that's the left end for Tennessee, but maybe it's Pierce. I can't remember. That dude was just like having the best day of his life. Every single time I was like, I have to run. And the wear and tear, which is the best feature in a football game ever, in my opinion. The wear and tear of my quarterback getting obliterated by the dude. I had like -10 throw power at halftime with my quarterback because he was killing him. And so I was just like, we're running to the left every single time. I'm doing halfback screens, I'm dumping it off. But like it changed how I had to play because there was a singular player that was just killing my offensive line the entire time. I was trying to double team him. It didn't matter. And you can see the blocking scheme. You can hold like left trigger or L2 and then left on the right stick, I believe, to see the blocking situation. And every time I'm like, he's going to kill me. Like I can already tell, like there's an overmatched piece here. Like that's why, like that's what it should be, right? Like that you should always have to account for those players. And when you play a big team, they have an impact player icon, which is kind of like a silhouette of a star. If you're playing another, similar school to Mid Tennessee State, you're probably going to see like maybe an impact player on offense, an impact player on defense, and then you go play a team like Ohio State or Georgia. Ohio State's defense is crazy, but you see their defense and you're like, one, two, three, four. I don't want to count anymore. There could be like 5 or 6 impact players on one side of the ball for a big school.
Wow.
I'm super excited. And Doug, last question for me. We got to go to Virginia Tech. You're Virginia home state. We talked a little bit about this off the air, but it's got to be rehashed during this recording. You leaked Virginia Tech's jerseys, and I know you grew up in Luray, JMU fan. Was there any maybe JMU vibes behind that? Were you trying to get under the Hokie skin? How does that happen? Walk us through that.
Man, what a time. It was a fun day on the internet, but it was just so weird because, I get the game. I'm trying to shoot the footage for this presentation video that EA wanted me to do. And I'm like, cool, no problem. And I'm just going through and I'm like, what would people want to see? And I'm like, oh, Virginia Tech. I know people are going to want Enter Sandman, but it's not in the game. So let me show them what, the intro is. And then I'm like picking uniforms, like, oh, those uniforms look cool. I haven't seen those before. Yeah, of course I haven't seen them before because they're brand new. And I didn't realize that. And so I shoot the footage and I thought it was great. And I'm like, the stadium looks great. The uniforms look great. This will be fantastic. And I send it over to, EA and they're like, looks good to us. I'm like, cool. I just think because I had so many different teams in there, it went under the radar. I'm sure in some spreadsheet, it's like, don't post this before or whatever, but I had 15 different teams in that footage. And so, the video goes live and I get, the first tweet response or whatever. It's like, bro, you leaked the uniforms, Lamau. And then just more comments came, and some dudes are like, you're the worst, you're the best. And it's just like, I told my wife, I was like, this is just the internet. Like I accidentally went semi-viral for leaking a major college football's uniforms, and then their Twitter account went passive aggressive on me, and I'd apologize. I was like, sorry guys. But it was not intended, just for the record. It was not intended. Completely an accident.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I saw their Twitter account post that and then saw you in the replies. I was cracking up.
All of my friends that went to tech growing up were just hitting me up, and they're like, "Oh my god, you did this? What? What?" And I was like, I just turned off Facebook. I was like, I'm not looking at these replies today.
Very funny. But the uniforms are impressive. I saw one of your gameplay videos. You had a nice little segment, I guess, on Bevo, Texas's mascot, and how they put that in the game, but then also had it on the sideline, so they'd score a touchdown, and you could see the mascot on the sideline. Are there other iterations or things like that, I guess, in the game that sort of stand out to you as like, wow, this is like crazy attention to detail in terms of like fans and mascots?
Yeah, I think the Army, Navy, or any school that has some form of cadet, right? So Virginia Tech with the ROTC kids, you have, I shouldn't, well, not kids, they're like adults, my bad. Virginia Tech with the ROTC crew, you've got Army, Navy, you've got Air Force, all these universities that have some form of a military presence. If it's snowing, they're wearing like a different uniform because they want to be cold. I mean, they want to be warmer, so they're wearing like a colder base outfit. If it's raining, they sort of have like parkas or like more shiny material to sort of ward off that. If they're in the summertime, they have the short sleeves on. Like that to me was like crazy attention to detail. UNC has their blue hash mark. Go Duke. Just by the way, I love Duke basketball, not UNC. But UNC has at the 22-yard hash mark. They're all light blue, the Carolina blue color, to honor Charlie Choo Choo Justice, who played for them in like the 1940s, I think, at that point. But that's like a super small thing of like, you have to be very inside football to understand that that's even a thing, and their developers are making sure all that stuff is there. And you just see it across the board. You see the mascots on the sideline. You'll see Big Red from Western Kentucky just vibing. Like you'll be driving down the field and you'll see him just like off in the distance, just, busting some moves. And it's just, there's just so much going on in the game. And I feel like every time you play at some stadiums, you're going to kind of come across a detail that you didn't see prior. And I think that's what I love about the franchise. And it's just good to have college football back at the end of the day.
That's so true. I can't wait for it. It's so close. Got to find a new Xbox though, because got to be next gen. But that's on me for having the same Xbox One since my freshman year of college. That's
You're waiting on college football to come back.
Yeah, that's an oversight on me. Bennett, anything else?
Nothing else. I think the insights were incredible, Doug, and I think you probably got a top 5 voice in America. So I could listen to you talk about this game all day.
Hey, listen, I'm just waiting for an analyst job one day. That'll be the dream. So
it's got to come.
When they do college football online, like the 2K League, the NBA 2K League, got a line for you to be an analyst on those games.
Hey, I'll be waiting for the contract. They can send it whenever they want.
Doug, thank you so much. Where can our listeners find you and all of your gameplay and everything like that across social media?
Yeah, for sure. At Good Game Bro on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, pretty much wherever. Just look up Good Game Bro and I'll be there streaming over college football 25.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much for your time on this Friday. Have a great rest of your weekend, man.
You guys too.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.
You know when you're listening to a true crime story that has an unbelievable plot twist that makes you stop in your tracks? That's what our podcast, People Are the Worst, brings you with each episode. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Rebecca. We're identical twins who love true crime cases that make you say, didn't see that coming, and we hate the people responsible for them. Listen to People Are the Worst now on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, it's Michelle Beadle. That's right, the Michelle Beadle. You're welcome. You love talking about sports. I love talking about sports. You know the only thing cooler than talking about sports? Sports! And right now, all your favorite sports are on Sirius XM. I'm talking every NFL game, every game from the NBA, NHL, MLB, every NASCAR race, golf major conference college sports, and all the top games in the WNBA. If it gets your heart pumping, it's on Sirius XM. So start your free trial of Sirius XM today. Visit SiriusXM.com/believe.